how much shift in a mindset is required, how much go-to attitude is required in terms of diving deep and mastering it. It is not just about handling it, managing it. It is about mastering it and being very satisfied about, yes, it was a tough time and I did it.
That is really what it is. And I should go back to thank, how my journey has been.
New products way ahead of time, as well as simplifying the processes. What has been, the more go-to thing? What has been inspiring in terms of whether more simplification is important or more innovation holds the key to, this dynamism?
One is empower. Perfect. As I said, empower definitely comes first, right?
Welcome, everyone. We are here back with another legendary person who has been in the profession. Well, it is difficult to say he has been a finance person or a techie, while he has actually conquered both the worlds. We'll see while we talk to him. He has been a chartered accountant, but he entered into the tech role. He again came back to chartered accountancy, then he again moved back to techie. So let's see how that journey was so pulling and pushing him towards different areas. We are going to meet Srinivas Rao today, who is popularly known as Shri, having a cross-cultural experience, who has worked with ADP, Loris Edutech, Dell, Pero Systems. He has an experience of about 27 years and has handled a team size of 6,000 plus employees. Welcome, Srinivas Rao. I would say Shri because that's easier and very quick to address you. So we would use your popular name, Shri.
Thank you so much, Shachi. It's such a pleasure to be on your podcast, and looking forward to have an interesting conversation with you.
Wonderful. So let's begin this. How did you think about doing chartered accountancy? I mean, when you were young, was it a go-to thing for you, or it took a time for you to decide you are good into finance, so you should do a CA?
To be honest, Shachi, I'll share a very candid fact with you. My dad is a chartered accountant, right? So, and I grew up watching him. But I don't think I've ever wanted to be a CA or get into a finance line. It was my dad's, desire that one of his kids should be a chartered accountant and continue the succession. My brother, sister were very clear that they would never wanted to be in the finance, so that by virtue of that elimination, it kind of fell on me. And to be honest, that is actually what has driven me to be a chartered accountant. And that's where, I did the technology twist. As soon as I completed CA in 96, I told my dad, he was then an ACA, Associate Chartered Accountant. I told him, Dad, you become an FCA. And he's like, I didn't apply for a fellowship. How did I become an FCA? I said, you're a father of chartered accountant now. And he was extremely delighted. And then I told him, look, now that one of your son's kids is a chartered accountant, am I free to do what I want to do now?
Oh my God.
And that's when I got into Oracle applications. By then, it was a big wave across the globe, right? Everyone were looking at ERP. Oracle applications just got started. So soon after CA, I got into that program, pursued it, and that's where the journey began.
Wonderful. So do you find that you ever used more of finance or more of techie side of yours? Which was your, go-to thing, which came naturally to you? Which was the heavier side, I would say?
I think they all complement each other, Shachi. Finance, I would always feel as the nervous system, right? So anything that you do, there is finance involved there. Even if you adopt technology, the end goal is the technology will yield to something which is financial and tangible. right? So I kind of complemented both of them. But of course, there is always this dilemma at times, do you wear a finance hat or do you wear a technology hat? But, in your mind, you have to process it to see how it will all yield up eventually, right? So to help with your ask, I think it is a combination of both. You have to balance it out.
Okay, so you always thought that now I'm, pushing more towards the finance. So that point in time, you used to, enjoy finance, and then finally you came back again to balance it.
That's right.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So if I may ask you that, it has been a 27 years journey where you have also been an employee, you have also been a techie. You've also been now an entrepreneur, if I may say that. You are actually heading a team for IT development and automation. Tell me something about what has been your role and what has been your journey in the new, entrepreneurship part.
So I'll give you a little story, right? Um, this is basically about a family, right? So when I finished off CA, we actually started off a technology company. Me, my brother, the family started off a technology company. My dad was a venture capitalist, right? And we blew off his money, right? So we were a disaster, right? And there was this question around that point in time. We middle class, and we didn't want to impact the family. So I decided, because I had the CA background, that I should venture out, work, right? And while my brother Timmy, we decided that he would continue to pursue the entrepreneurial route, right? That's how we branched out. While I continued, I kept working in different companies. Timmy, my brother, kept working on growing the company, right? So he felt those days we were in India. He felt India is not the right place, maybe still evolving. So probably US is a good place. He moved to the US and started off NatSoft. So it's 20 years. While I've been moving in different organizations and moving into different roles, he's been extremely diligent in growing the company, right? From almost scratch those days to about 2,000 plus people today, NatSoft.
Wow.
And 3 years ago, it was getting a lot for him to manage, for Timmy. And then the family felt, hey, we have a company in the family that's growing. And, you've seen managing organizations at multinational level. So you should come on board, take this company to the next level of a multinational, right? So that was a decision of the family, 2020, that I moved out. I'm glad I made that decision. Because for about 7 years I was managing finance, and for someone who has done a lot prior to managing finance, being in technology, I managed HR for a few years. I managed shared services. I managed operations as well. So I was kind of getting boxed up, and then 2020, when I came on board, I felt a new, fresh breath of air. And I said, this is the way to go. 3 years, I think I kind of lost for some time with technology. It was a real hard work again. Those days when I came on board, 2020, things like blockchain was doing the rounds. There were automation, AI, all of that. And I needed to get on a lot of client calls. And of course, you cannot sound naive. So I had to really spruce up myself and come up to speed. This has been an amazing experience. I slightly longish, but I thought it was worthwhile to share this with you.
No, wonderful. And basically, see, it is where you realized that though you're coming back to your own roots, you're coming back to a known culture where they are headed by your family, but still a lot of hard work goes into making it successful. It's not like it is going to come easy. Whatever level, it's just that you have a comfort level that you're dealing with people.
Absolutely. Dealing with people I know is one. And I think the most important thing is the freedom to do what you can, right? So, in a large organization, it's nice, right? Working in multinationals is always nice. You have that sense of pride, feeling, working for a multinational, all that. But they're all largely framework driven, right? So you cannot operate beyond that framework. And there are swim lanes, right? This is the lane that you can operate. So here you have that freedom. So in NatSoft, I think there are a lot of things that we've done over the last 3 years. First, I think we're changing that culture from a proprietary driven organization to a completely professional setup, right? Empowering people, adopting the multinational framework. So we are kind of preparing ground in the organization to take it to a very large scale. Bringing in, so we were largely a services driven company. Over the years, we've evolved. We are now a lot of products, a lot of technology, technology that actually makes a difference on the market. I couldn't have imagined doing these in large multinationals, right? So that's something that is really exciting, Shachi.
What an irony in life that you were actually boxed with the approach of being doing the same thing over a line, over a certain framework, and you came out and now you're building up your own frameworks, but still you are into making up new frameworks, but still you are into the same energy of one. You have been on that framework and now you're creating some frameworks with your experiential knowledge which you have learned over the years with different companies. Interesting. This sounds like using the application of what you have learned over the years.
Thank you, Shachi. I think that is really what it is. And I should go back to thank, how my journey has been, right? I think one of the things that has been always good for me is and helped me is being adaptable, right? So when I finished my CA, there was this ERP wave, right? I got into that ERP bandwagon. Um, I will tell you, Sachi, it was such a stressful moment when I switched in, and you're in your first job. You from a complete finance background with no technology, but you are on a technology table. Extremely stressful, right? There were times when I wanted to give up, and why did I get into this, right? But then I think the persuasion always helped. Um, so subsequently to ERP, then there was this wave of back office BPM coming into India. So that's when I got into that particular area of work. Then technology, so kept evolving. Good side is while I was with Pero Systems, I had the opportunity to be in operate multiple roles, right? Head of HR, CEO, Chief Operating Officer, shared services, finance, and technology. So, it gives you a complete all round experience. And then when I moved into Loris EduTech, it all helped, right, from a management perspective. Um,
Absolutely. I think it is more of a journey of, you have been a champ all through. Somebody said you should do a chartered accountancy. You did a chartered accountancy, and someone said that, okay, there's a wave of Oracle. You jumped into that and you mastered that also. Somebody said, okay, now get into the roles of different kinds. You did that as well. You championed that as well. Then someone said, okay, now there's time, why not you come on to the family business, take some tech and finance both. You also came back there. So it is a lot to do with how much shift in a mindset is required, how much go-to attitude is required in terms of diving deep and mastering it. It is not just about handling it, managing it. It is about mastering it and being very satisfied about, yes, it was a tough time and I did it. Every time it gave you a high that you jumped into it, but you were able to uh, we say very, very strongly that it's a lot to cross the high sea, but every time you've been a champion in changing the roles and adapting to the roles. I truly agree. It means a lot to adapt to all these functions in one journey.
Absolutely, Shachi. So I don't know if I can claim to be master of where all I have been, but the thing is adaptability, right? I always very fond of this quote: "Necessity is the mother of
Mother of
invention."
invention.
Right? So that drives me. And so, I have this thing at home, on my better half, always very, I think, propagator of the traditional schooling model, whereas I am like, you don't have to really go through that. Right today, if you want to learn, there are several resources available to you. And like, for instance, when I got on board NatSoft, I had to really pick up on blockchain and pick up on what are the automated legacy modernization that is available, and AI and things like that. I've not been to any of the schools, but learned all of these on various resources that are available. So that's something that I have, in terms of pursuing. So I'm always learning.
So tell me one thing. I mean, with all these things which you have learned newly, did you find that you could use or automate some part of the processes which, your knowledge on the techie side has helped you to, simplify it? Did it help you to make a more simplified version of what normally people do? Was it really helpful?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I think throughout the journey, that is what it has been. Um, I'll share some things about, what, how am I utilizing my past experience at NatSoft. While at Pero Systems, we implemented a technology, workflow management, a first of its kind, then in a BPM industry, which automated several things. Let's say, for instance, the work allocation was automated. The system understood who can pick up what kind of process and automatically allocated that work. The moment they pick up that particular piece of work, it manages their productivity, it manages their quality, real time, dynamic, tracking, and cross-dimensional views of information. Those days, it was way ahead. We were evolved. People like, I'm sure you must have heard of C.K. Prahalad, M.S. Krishnan. They actually spent some time, wrote a book called New Age of Innovation, featured some of what we developed those days, right? So I carried that through. While at Loris EduTech, we built a platform called Leap. Now, Leap again is a first of its kind. It automated the skill development across board, right? So how many people are joining for skill development programs? When did they join? What is their knowledge quotient level? At what part of the program they are currently? Audit trail of video online, right? So an auditor would actually call randomly a student who is pursuing the skill development programs. Those days, this was in 2010, 2013, recorded to understand, how they have learned, right? And these were all hard engineering skills: welding, plumbing, electrician, carpenter, bartender, machinist, things like that, right? And I've gathered all that, and today at NatSoft, we built again a lot of products, right? So I'll take some examples of that. we built a product called Gauge. Gauge is automates the entire life cycle of an associate from the time the person joins the company to which process the person joins and what has been their productivity, quality. Automates 360-degree appraisal, right? So you don't have to go through people telling you and influencing you your appraisal system. 90% of the appraisal is done in the system, right? So there is no what you call biasness involved there, and you're able to get all of this real-time data. Clients are able to log in. What has all this done? This has reduced a lot of human dependence on regular tasks. It saves a lot of underlying costs, right?
That's
Automates the entire process. So it's a clear distinguishing factor from a competitive edge standpoint. I've seen tremendous use cases.
So, if I may actually ask you that you have been into the journey of innovating, new products way ahead of time, as well as simplifying the processes. What has been, the more go-to thing? What has been inspiring in terms of whether more simplification is important or more innovation holds the key to, this dynamism?
I think both, right? So I'll give you with some examples on why both, right? We acquired a company called Updraft 2021, right? 22. We acquired company. It's about a little more than a year and a half. This company is in space called automated legacy modernization, right? A lot of them kind of will wonder why we would have acquired a company which is in automated legacy modernization space. Where is legacy, right? This product is an AI-based, AI-powered tool, right? What it really does is it's way powerful than what you are seeing from a Gen AI standpoint today, right? So Gen AI has been a couple of years, but this has been there. Updraft has been in existence for almost 12, 13 years. I will tell you what it does. Let's take an example of COBOL operating on a mainframe. COBOL, I'm sure you'll agree with me, is a 60-plus-year-old language. And you might actually wonder, does COBOL still exist, right? So I'll give you a good statistic to leave you with a very strong impression of how much of COBOL is still out there, right? So today, companies, given an opportunity, want to move out of COBOL, but they cannot. The reason is there aren't people available in COBOL. A lot of them would have retired. The new generation doesn't pick up COBOL. So there is support system, going away from COBOL. Now companies want to move out. It's a big challenge if they want to modernize, right? But this tool that we acquired, you take COBOL platform, put it on our tool, run it, 1,000,000 lines of code of COBOL, it can modernize in under 24 hours into a Java program. Now, when I say modernize, not just COBOL into Java, it even moves the underlying database, let's say from DB2 to Postgres. Third, it even takes you to a cloud. Let's say, an AWS or a Google Cloud or even Microsoft Azure, right? So from an on-prem, within this short run of 24 hours, you're actually taking it to cloud, taking it to a modern environment from mainframe to Linux. You're also taking it to a modern technology, Java, right? Now, mainframe is a very robust platform and environment, right? So some companies may not want to move out of it. This tool even works on upgrading the COBOL platform on the mainframe itself, right?
Wonderful.
So all of this helps in terms of, I would say, aligning yourself to the modern technology. Why?
But apart from subject knowledge, There is a lot to do with the leadership style. Do you agree with me or not?
Absolutely. I totally
So
agree with
what has been your leadership style on?
you. Yeah. So my leadership style is I empower people. I completely believe in empowering people, but I empower them not straight away, right? I look at them, I get them into, I judge them, I see if they have the ability to be on their own self. Give them what happens is, I think, why I do that in terms of spending time with them before we empower is quite often most of the companies think like this, that when someone comes on board, you try to hire someone who is exactly fit to a particular role or a job. That can never be right? So whatever kind of processes, technologies you may have, there will be certain things when you start working with the person that you discover, right?
And
And a
that it
lot
will grow.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is to do with how much are you in terms of collaborating with that individual to get that individual acquainted to your framework, right?
True.
So I spend that quite a bit. And once I am on board with that, then I allow them to operate themselves. That's largely my leadership style. And I want to automate as much as possible, right? So eliminate human intervention, especially where technology can take over.
But
Um,
if I may ask, the three things which you have always applied in all these journeys that you have been, all these 27 years, these three things you have always applied in terms of the way you have handled people, your teams, you have handled the projects. What has been those three principles you always work on?
yeah, so I think one is empower. Perfect. As I said, empower definitely comes first, right? Second thing is, in terms of working with them to help them understand what are your goals, right? And where do you, what is your vision? Unless you share with them your vision, they will not have a direction. They will come up with their own vision. Very important to help them understand where you are going, where do you want to take it, right? Third, communication. Extremely important to have the channel of communication both ways, right? Um, it's not top down, it's both bottom up, top down, right?
Yeah,
And
because trust goes both ways.
absolutely. And most of the times, what I do is, this is something that always helped me very well. Is my initial discussions with people. I typically come about. I'm not familiar. I'm naive, right? So that's when people talk, right? But if you come across, you know it all, then they are very apprehensive about being themselves, right? So
Right.
let them get into that comfort, let them give you what their perspective is, and then you kind of collaborate. That's been my large, style of operating with people.
Wonderful. So the three things that if I have to sum up is one is that you always empower your team. You work with the team to give them an opportunity to grow themselves individually. Navigate a vision along with them so that you both are on the same page. And third, definitely it's a communication top to bottom and bottom to top so that there are no gaps which are there in you co-working together in your state of how you can achieve those goals together. Wonderful.
Absolutely. And again, I'll tell you something about how we utilize technology here, right? So from time that been working with Pero Systems and today at NatSoft, we have this thing called My Ideas, right? So how do you collaborate with people bottom up, right? So you cannot go talk to every individual. So there is this thing called they can go put their ideas, and we look at those ideas at a regular interval. And where are those ideas, right? And what are they talking about? right? And you aggregate those ideas, and that's your bottom up, right? You evaluate them, take some of those ideas into your strategy, your vision, and things like that. So that's how technology has helped to have that kind of a reach to people, Shachi.
Absolutely. I think this is possible only when there's an open communication, when there is trust among the team. This can happen when, the teams are not forced to be efficient, but they feel like being more efficient, communicating their ideas because the ideas are getting utilized. They are valued with what opinion they are coming with. That is wonderful. That's so nice. I mean, that is the leadership style which not only helps the leader, but it helps the people within the team also grow, leaps and bounds. I think these days that's the reason employees choose organizations more than organizations choose employees, and
And
not all that freedom.
absolutely, I totally concur, Shachi. And one of the things, Shachi, that gives me a lot of pride and happiness is a lot of people, who have worked with me are today very high leaderships in various organizations, right? So there's been some opportunity at some point in time in your life, both ways. I've learned quite a bit from them, and probably they learned some from me. But today, that team is all spread out in different organizations and large CXO roles, or senior, influencer management roles, is an extremely important thing too. Um, One more I kind of didn't talk much about is, from Dell, a very cushy job, Shachi. This was in 2010. I moved venture into those days again. Skill development was just coming up as a big wave in the country. uh, Government of India started up something called as National Skill Development Corporation with a large outlay of fund to skill over 400, 500 million people across the country, right? I got excited by that opportunity, right? So we said for the underprivileged, bottom of the pyramid, right? Can you help them get into good, ecosystem? Was the motivation. So I left the job, got into Laurus EduTech. We raised funds from National Skill Development Corporation. We had a large mandate to train, skill, find jobs for millions of people. uh, Again, I have lot of stories how we have positively impacted them. There was this one center that we opened was an international welding training institute,
Oh,
right? And when I visited the institute, one of the guys went to Canada through our institute, came back, and when he came back, I was delighted to see he was driving around in a Scorpio with a few gold chains around his neck. And when I asked him how has been his opportunity in Canada, he said thanks to the Laurus EduTech skill development programs, he did an amazing job there, earned, came back, and is doing real estate now. I asked him, why did you leave Canada? He said, I have not left Canada. My better half is Canadian citizen, right? So,
oh.
those are stories that will inspire
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. When you see those transformations in front of you, they give you a different kind of high.
Absolutely.
Talking about the high, I think I have one question which is very, very, very important to understand. What has been your biggest challenge in this journey, and how have you really coped up in terms of this was my really, really bad, outlook, and I changed the way I looked at it, and then I had to work on so and so areas, and I would like to hear something on those lines.
Sure. So I think the first challenge that I think gave me, I would say, sleepless nights, right? Very very tough time was when I finished my training on Oracle applications, right? And my first job was in Mumbai, because someone told me if you work in Mumbai, you can work anywhere across the world,
Anywhere.
right?
True.
I took that in literal sense, and I went to Mumbai to work on Oracle applications. Now, one, it was a 2 months program, and I have no idea about computers when I finished my CA. Got into computers and Oracle applications. Every time I'm lost, I would just press the reset button on the computer to reboot everything, right? That was the state of affairs when I got into Oracle applications, and it was something called as character user interface those days. So everything was command driven. There was no mouse or cursor. Everything was command driven. I didn't know how the computer itself works, right? And then when I got into the first job in Mumbai, it got moved out from Oracle application character user interface to a GUI, graphical user interface. That was an add to the agony, right? And there were no training programs available. The only thing that you have are training manuals. And I had to train a lot of my clients' end users. I had terrible time, right? Wouldn't be able to sleep. Wouldn't It's a pressure because next day morning you have to train all of them. Those were the times I just wanted to give up, right? And I said, no, this is not working. But I had, fortunately, very good roommates. We were all staying together, who helped me and kept my spirits high. They were also part of Oracle applications team. Lent some of their support to me, navigated it. But again, what helped me there was, though that I had this desire, but to give it up. But I think inside me was always there that keep doing, keep working on it, right? So that helped. That was real challenging time. The second challenging time I've had was in when I moved from a finance role to a head of HR role, right? And when I moved into a head of HR role, it was, I think, about 5,000-6,000 people then, and we were going off with what you call as the curve fitment performance appraisal, right? And that was the first time no one had an idea about how a curve fitment implementation happens. The team was very raw that I have had, right? And imagine you are in the thick of all the appraisals and you need to get this through. Why did I take up a HR role? So again, I moved out of my comfort zone. Why did they do that? But again, I think the determination, right? I didn't know. I wasn't very fluent with Excel those days. But again, I worked with the team, trained them, helped them understand what was the vision. We worked through sleepless nights, challenging times, right? So those were some that I could, it hits me back. It comes back to me. Even skill development was again another big thing. Totally different area. And we were growing very fast, right? So we went to almost 300 centers in 3 years. So every month there were a couple of centers that were opening. You can't cope with everything. It was first time that industry got started. But again, the will to make that happen. I think those are things. What drives me is ownership. I never feel wherever I work that I'm working there. I've always taken ownership. This is mine. How do you deal with this if this was your own? Your own house, your own car. your own asset, whatever it is. How do you deal with it? I apply that mindset.
So much to learn from this. I truly understand how it would have been, where you are changing the roles every time you have taken, the functional dip in literally every function, the operations, the HR, the finance, the tech side, knowing the business, sales side. And ownership, yes, definitely. Unless a person has taken that kind of ownership, he would give up sooner. He would not be able to, forgive himself. Why did you take up this, in the first place when you're not this expertise owner? So, yes, determination, ownership would have been very strong in you, is what I see, because you have changed so many roles. You have actually exhibited adaptability because of your determination. Because once you have determined you have to take this, you have plunged into it, and then getting into and navigating your way. Yeah, it's quite a journey. It's quite inspiring, Shri. I mean, I think not many people would know that so much it could take for, and they are not smaller roles. You have not taken any roles which have expected lesser from you. 6,000
Absolutely.
employees is not a joke.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must tell you, one of the things that I'm very fortunate was to have a leadership that trusted and put up. It's not that everything has been rosy, right? There have been a lot of failures too, right? So we learn from those failures and make sure that you don't make those mistakes again, right? But how your leaders perceive you when there's been a failure, right? Extremely important. I'm very fortunate to have worked during my Systems time or Loris EduTech or Dell. Extremely fortunate to have worked with commendable leaders who not only given me the opportunity, but have actually mentored, coached, to navigate all of those. And I continue to learn. There are different things that I learn. Timmy, my brother, is an amazing entrepreneurial capability, right? His networking style, that is something that I learned from him, right? So there is everyone, everywhere, that there are things that you can learn. And
Absolutely. I fully resonate with this.
yeah,
In fact, while I've been talking and conversing with different professionals, different functional areas, different expertise, it's been quite a journey for me, because I think you get a different perspective every time. Every person has a leadership style, and they have navigated all through with their, unique leadership styles, and that has worked for them.
absolutely.
It has been such a nice conversation with you, Shri. Would you actually have some closing remarks on what is that one takeaway you would give to anybody who would see this podcast? Something which they can take away, and that's a learning for the lifetime.
So I think my only thing will be is that keep learning, be curious. The world is evolving, right? If I would map the world since the evolution, I think thousands of years ago, or maybe even millions, if you would have seen what is the world today, the graph would look something like this. It's moving, and then there's this huge jump. And this huge jump that you are seeing is all happening in the recent time. So if I map the entire human evolution into 24 hours, what you are seeing today has happened in the last 9 to 10 seconds. I read this somewhere, right? That's the pace at which the world is evolving. Be curious to learn about everything. Today's world, the generation is going through a lot of challenges in terms of, from a technology standpoint of view. There is so much content that is being pushed across. I would say pushed across. Be very mature in terms of not wanting to accept all that is pushed across, because it's your time, right?
Correct.
Your time, you want to put it, you use to your benefit. Go and use this gadget or technology to seek, not being pushed or trusted upon you,
Yeah, the
right?
most accurate thing would be to choose what will help you and not just,
Exactly.
take whatever comes your way. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ree, for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for this wonderful conversation talk that we had.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me over. It's wonderful, interacting with you and talking with you, Shachi.
Thank you so
Good.
much.
Thanks.